All right, how's everyone doing? I am Rich Celenza. Thanks for checking out my channel. So what I want to get into today, well, before I say anything, I'm actually at an LA Fitness in Wesley Chapel in Tampa. I'll give you kind of a view of what that looks like, just in case you ever want to come here. It's a nice gym, like most LA Fitness layouts. When you walk in, the pool's to the right, cycling, locker rooms. It's like a double-decker. So there you go. So one of the questions I've been getting asked, especially for people just first starting to work out, is do I need a belt or not when working out? And the one thing I'm going to tell you is that's entirely up to you, depending on what condition you're in. I can't tell anybody what works for them or what doesn't work for them, especially if you've had any injuries, or again, depending on what type of exercise you're doing. And in this case, I'm mainly talking about lifting weights, just so we're clear. So in this case, I'm going to kind of give you a backstory real quick. So when I was younger, especially in the late 70s and early 80s, throughout even the 90s, a lot of us used belts, especially when lifting heavy weights, which made sense. I think that was just the norm. Now I don't see nearly as many people wearing a belt unless, for the most part, they're in powerlifting or they're lifting, again, very heavy weights. But it's not nearly as popular as it was. One thing that I've had an issue with wearing a belt was, especially a bigger kind of like Everlast style. I don't know if you remember them. Then Joe Weider had a style, and then there's all these different styles. One is I don't like the buckle area. It would kind of knock the wind out of me. And also in the back, some are thinner than others, but I just didn't like the big back on it. And what I learned over the years for me is, for one, I stopped going very heavy in the 2000s. But the one thing I learned regarding working out, and that is strengthening my back. So what I started to do was I got away from the belt, and what I started to do was a lot of exercises where I did not use the backrest for any reason whatsoever. And at first, I'm not gonna lie, my back was sore, in a good way, not a bad. But I realized when I got rid of the belt, because I always were working out, and that's when I was lifting a lot of weight, squatting, and deadlifting and doing a lot of things heavier, which again, like I said, I think if I was to go that heavy again, I probably would wear a belt. But for the average Joe out there, is what I'm talking about here. But I was starting to do things where I just naturally started to build the strength up in my lower back. And I think how I did that was by, again, not using anything regarding a belt or using anything as far as a backrest goes. That goes for doing shoulders. Mainly, I think a lot of times we're doing shoulders and we use a backrest or just any type of exercise. I also started to do a lot of standing with my working out and not sitting as much either. You know, if you're doing bench, you're going to have to lay down, or if you're doing certain things like shoulders, you may have to sit down here or there, but for the most part, I do most of my workout standing, which again, I think over the years has strengthened my back, is what I should say. So, and this is quite interesting because when I was really young, I started from wrestling, I think so many years and playing so many sports, I started to have a lot of lower back pain. And I think over the years, my back has felt better than ever, especially for as much as I fly and drive. So the one thing I would say regarding the belt again is if you want to invest in it, give it a shot. But I think if you're just going to be lifting weights to stay in shape, get into a certain type of condition, you don't need the belt. Again, if you're injured or anything else, you know, that's on you. But I think I wouldn't start with a belt. I would just concentrate on working out my full body and also strengthening my lower back. And not to the point of where I'm hurting it. Be very aware, especially if you're squatting incorrectly, doing deadlifts incorrectly. Regardless if you have a belt or not, you're going to hurt yourself. And I know a lot of guys, especially back in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, had belts, lifted the weights like assholes, and they ended up being injured. So believe me when I tell you, a belt is not going to always prevent injuries just because you have one on. That's kind of common sense, but I don't think a lot of people know that. The trick to working out just in general is preventing injuries. You got to look at it as the long-term game. All right, and no belt or no other, I mean, even if you wear wraps on your knees like a lot of people do and you're lifting heavy weights, again, be very aware of those type of things because you still can easily get injured regardless what type of equipment you're using. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up there. If you get a chance, subscribe. You also may want to check out my podcast, The Rich Celenza Show, WTF Are You Talking About? I'm also on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And yeah, do your own research. What works for somebody may not work for someone else. You know the whole game, but if I was just a beginner, or if you're somebody who's worn a belt for years and you're thinking about leaning off of it, give it a shot. Just learn how to strengthen that lower back, because if you use the belt for many, many years, it may be kind of spoiled, and it may not have the strength in your lower back area that you think it does because you've kind of relied on the belt. All right, take care and safe travels.